To write the net ionic equation for Fe plus CuSO4, that's iron plus copper 2 sulfate, we'll use these rules here. The first thing we need to do is write the balanced molecular equation. This is the molecular equation, and this is actually already balanced, so we don't have to do anything in step one. Kind of nice. Then we write the states. Well, iron, that's a metal. And then copper sulfate, we should probably look up and see whether that's soluble or insoluble, and we can use a table of solubility to figure that out. So we look at our table here, and we're looking for copper. There's our copper 2, Cu2+, and then way over here is the sulfate. And it says that it's soluble. Since this is soluble, it'll dissolve in water. It'll dissociate or split apart into its ions. We're going to write AQ. That's aqueous for dissolved in water. Copper is a metal, so that's going to be a solid here. And then iron sulfate, here's iron, this is iron 2 sulfate. That is going to be soluble as well, so we'll write AQ after that. So we have the states for each one of these compounds up here, or these elements. Next, we're going to split the soluble compounds, those soluble compounds, the ones that are dissolved, into their ions, and this will be our complete ionic equation. Iron, that's a solid, so it's not going to be soluble, and it really can't be split apart anyway because it's just one atom. So we're going to write Fe, and put a little S after it, plus the copper 2 sulfate. So to figure out the charges here, to see what they'll split apart into, we need to know the charge on the sulfate ion. That is a 2-. So that's something, the sulfate, you probably should memorize. Some teachers allow you to use a table of ions and look it up. But if this is 2-, this has to be 2+. So we'll have copper 2+, that's the copper 2 ion, plus the sulfate ion, SO4 2-. And these will be aqueous. I'll write that at the end. I won't write that right now. Let's shrink this down a little bit. On the product side, we have our copper, which is that solid there. We want to remember that it's a solid. Plus, we have the iron sulfate. And we said that was aqueous, so this will split apart. This is 2-. The iron, that has to be 2+ for this to work out. So we have our Fe2+ plus the sulfate ion there, SO4 2-. Shrink this down some. So now we split the soluble compounds apart into their ions. We have the complete ionic equation. Next, we're going to cross out what are called spectator ions. These are ions that appear on both sides. So we have Fe solid, but over here we have Fe2+. Those are very different. We can't cross those out. We have Cu2+, but here it's a solid. Can't cross that out. The sulfate ion, though, we have that on both sides, so that's not changed. We're not interested in that. We're going to just cross it out here. So now we can write the net ionic equation for Fe plus CuSO4. That'll look like this. And this is the net ionic equation for Fe plus CuSO4 yields Cu plus FeSO4. This is Dr. B, and thanks for watching.